My friends, they always say in MMA or UFC or whatever the fuck that you should not bet with your heart. You don't pick with your heart and your gut because most of the time your feelings are going to override the logic in the situation. And for the most part, I try and apply that to myself, but in this situation at UFC 309, I'm saying fuck that. I'm saying fuck that and I'm throwing out the window because I truly believe, I'm not making this up for clickbait or whatever the fuck, okay? This ain't no pick me shit. I really do think that either Stipe Miocic or Michael Chandler is going to get a knockout win at UFC 309. Why? Because the plot, y'all. Because the plot, okay? I'm going to explain, right? And first, I want to just immediately start with, you see on your screen, kind of in the bottom right there, you see a few upsets with the betting odds next to them. Huge underdogs, right? For some godforsaken reason. The MMA gods, they brew fucking storms for some reason in kind of like the second half of the year, ever since 2021. Maybe COVID changed some shit in the air, and fighters kind of get a little too fucked up by it because Juliana Pena defeating Amanda Nunes, December of 2021. Leon Edwards, head kicking Usman, August of 2022. Alex Pereira taking out Israel Adesanya. What was that, like November 2022? That one might not be as kind of, shock factor as the others up here. But Sean Strickland outstriking and taking to a decision Israel Adesanya, who was at the time one of the best strikers in the UFC, still kind of is. So for some reason, man, all these huge upsets are happening. We haven't had that yet this year, right? The second half of the year, everything's been going a little too canon. Everything's going a little too normal. There haven't been any big upsets. Here comes Michael Chandler and Stipe Miocic about to fuck up the timeline. And I really do think there's scenarios where this is going to go down. If one of these guys wins, let alone both, God forbid both, but if one of these guys wins, can you just imagine the change in the timeline and all the events that are going to occur in 2025, all right? If Miocic wins the heavyweight title, he's going to retire, okay? But if Jones wins, I think he's going to retire as well. But if he loses, I feel like nobody's been thinking about that. I know last year when this fight got announced or was about to happen, the odds were not nearly as wide of a gap as there are now, because last year I think Jones was like a -200 or 300 favorite, and now he's a -700, and that number's gonna keep going up by the time next week rolls around. So, but if Jones does lose, I just think his pride, he wants to go out as the GOAT, okay? And there's no shame in losing to Stipe, but the fact that he's such a big favorite and the fact that Stipe is getting up there in age, and Jones just has this attitude about him that he's just so focused on retirement or so focused on just shitting on Tom or so focused on comparing his legacy and all that. And I know that Jones kind of always has a big head in his shoulders. I mean, it's part of why he's so successful, to be honest. Dude's fucking crazy, but it just seems like even if he's usually kind of like that, he and all of us really are just overlooking Stipe. Now, I thought Jones and Oliveira, I thought they were going to take these guys' heads off. If you asked me a month ago, I feel like most people are on that page right now, you know what I mean? Even as the fights are getting closer, but it just doesn't feel right. Something in the fucking air. So then Jones will probably fight Aspinall. I feel like he's going to want to not go out like that. Aspinall's going to be promoted the undisputed champ because motherfucker had to defend the interim belt. He's the double interim champ at this point, so he's going to get promoted undisputed champ. And then I feel like Jones is going to fight him as the challenger, or I don't know, I just can't see Jones just going out like that, especially if, by a knockout. Jones never been finished or really beaten at all, so. And I'm one of the people that, Jones is genuinely probably my least favorite fighter on the roster right now, if you even count him as on the roster right now. But even I will say that I do think he's the best fighter, or I do think he's the greatest fighter of all time. His resume is just loaded, and his longevity is just above everybody else's for as consistently. It's not like Demetrius Johnson, who I think's on Mount Rushmore, or Silva, and you have to kind of question the caliber of some of their title defenses or their competition. For the most part, Jones fought the very top of the division, and I'm not trying to take anything away from him just because he's kind of just a fucking, I don't even know. He's a fuck, alright? I'm not gonna go on some guru rant about him, but it's just still. But on the other hand, let me transition into the Michael Chandler situation. What would it be like if he wins, right? Because I'm a big Oliveira guy. I feel like most of us are. So if Chandler wins, and especially, gets a title shot maybe in 2025 before GTA 6, everything's fucked, all right? Because what are you going to do with Oliveira? Maybe he'll fight Holloway for the BMF belt. I mean, and if Chandler wins, what do you do with that? Because beating Oliveira is huge. I feel like there's this thing right now where, Chandler started strong in the UFC, and yeah, he's got to win over kind of aged Ferguson or Hooker right after the Poirier war, and I'm not trying to take anything away from those wins. And his fight with Gaethje was super close. If he didn't have the fight IQ of a fucking squirrel, he probably could have taken that one, His fight with Poirier made the first round really competitive. Oliveira, he won the first round against Oliveira and almost had him out of there. So Chandler is not just to be fucking pushed off or whatever. I just think his lack of fight IQ has been the biggest downfall for him in the UFC. And even now, how he's talking about this build up to the Oliveira rematch, it's not promising because he's just there's no growth kind of or maturity, and he's 38. All right. He waited out for McGregor for 2.5 years, I think. So he's all amped up. So like before, just this impatient, the urge to just get in there and get after it and take people's heads off in the first round, God forbid the second or the third, like it's just going to be elevated for this fight. But against most other opponents, I think that would be to his downfall. Like he's going to go out like a bat out of hell. You know what I mean? He's going to try and just take his lights out, all this built up adrenaline, anticipation, and you know, he has the chance to just fucking just change everything, not only for himself, but just kind of like the scape of the whole entire division. And not only would it kind of save his UFC or his legacy in the UFC, but it would also just take him to heights and paychecks that he didn't have before. Imagine he gets a title shot. Imagine the McGregor fight after he would beat someone like Oliveira. Now, it doesn't make any sense really, but it also does when you kind of consider how the first fight went. Oliveira, for the most parts, looked great since. I mean, I know he's kind of lost to Makhachev and had that close decision against Aryukin, so those are losses, but it's not like he's been washed. Like, he's gotten wins since, notably the Beneil one, and, you know, the wins right after over Gaethje and Poirier. I mean, Oliveira's been on a fucking roll for the most part, kind of only losing to the very, very top, or, you know, the people from the mountain men that kind of throw a bit of adversity on the ground for him and, you know, can hold their own on the feet. So that can kind of be Oliveira's kryptonite. And the reason why I think that this fight, I really do think that Chandler could take his lights out is because Oliveira does have a chin. What I was going to say earlier when I was saying against most guys, I think the fury that Chandler is about to unleash, you know, I think Chandler would gas out. Maybe he would miss. Maybe he would just, you know, not be able to take their lights out even with the big shots. I mean, we saw how, you know, Poirier and Gaethje, I know they have good chins, but we saw how they kind of handled it. And Oliveira, though, he gets knocked down, and he gets knocked down frequently. I'm not saying he's fighting pillow hands or jobbers, jabronis, whatever the fuck, but Chandler still has power, even at 38 years old. He's frustrated, and he just wants to go out there and immediately, like, put himself back at the top. So, see you at the top! God. And who knows, Oliveira himself, similar to the Jones situation, like, he might be overlooking Chandler, you know? I mean, he beat him the first time, and Chandler's been out for a long time, you know? He could have lost 4 fun fights by then, but it's just like, even Oliveira could be overlooking him. And with the chin factor, and considering that if he really might be overlooking him, now I feel like it's more safe to assume that Jones is overlooking Stipe than Oliveira versus Chandler, because I feel like that part is more of an assumption, but it wouldn't help if that ends up being the case. So I really do think Chandler, I think if he's going to take out Oliveira, it's going to be in the first round. I can't see it in the second. I think the longer that fight goes on, especially the fact that it's 5 rounds, every round that goes by, it's just going to favor Oliveira. I mean, he just has, I know Chandler's a really experienced guy as well, but Oliveira has this funny thing or fancy thing, whatever the fuck, called fight IQ, and he's going to apply it. So as long as Oliveira can hold on after that first round, I think Oliveira would take it. But I could just see it, man. I could just see it. And you know, I think there's slightly enough logic to it that it could make sense. Right now, at the top of the lightweight division, it's Makhachev, Saryukin, and Oliveira kind of up there in their own little bubble. And you know, that's going to play out the way it plays out. We're going to know by the middle of next year. And Makhachev's either going to move on to Chandler or fucking Rakhmonov. Going, I guess, kind of back to the Jones-Miocic thing. Now, how is Miocic going to do it? Because Miocic is really up there in age. I know Chandler's 38, but Miocic is, 42? Maybe 43, but I could be making that up. But just because, like, here's the thing. If this was, like, a bantamweight, lightweight, or even, like, welterweight bout, I'd even say middleweight. Like, age matters, I feel like, a lot more in the lighter divisions. And not to say middleweight is light, but you know what I'm saying. Like, as you go down each division, I just feel like I just said, like, the age matters a lot more, especially when you get past that 35 range, God forbid 42. So, but with heavyweight, I think, you know, they can still hang, especially when you're dealing with the heavyweight GOAT. And I mean, Stipe, people forget, man. It's easy to forget, man. Benson Henderson with those calf kicks. No, but seriously, like, it really is easy to forget how amazing Stipe was. I mean, Stipe was one of my favorite fighters when I first got into the sport, so he kind of holds a special place into my heart. I said plate, like I'm DC or someone hungry ass, but no, I mean, Miocic really did. He had really great wins. I mean, he really showed off his fight IQ and experience, takedown defense, whatever the fuck you want to call it, being able to hold his own on the feet and control the cage against Ngannou the first time. I know the second time got knocked the fuck out, and Ngannou showed great improvements, and that fight is just depressing, to be honest. He had a great win over Ngannou, beat JDS, Alistair Overeem, Fabricio Verdum. I mean, some of the best heavyweights ever you're talking about, and Miocic took him out pretty much all by finish. And 2 wins, and I mean, you could say this is the biggest part, the 2 wins over Cormier. I know that Cormier was getting up there in age, but so was Stipe. Stipe was just a year younger than DC, I'm pretty sure. So both of them are up there in age. So, you know, and I love DC. So at first I'm like, yeah, like, he's getting up there in age. Even I thought that at first, but no, no, they're both fucking up there. Just because Stipe kept fighting afterwards for what, the one fight, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden. So you know what I'm saying. Andrei Arlovski, Mark Hunt. I mean, Miocic has an insane resume, really worthy of being the heavyweight GOAT. Now here's the thing though, hasn't fought since 2021, and he's coming off a loss. But let's talk about where Jones has been at, okay? Because his last fight before the Gane fight was 2019, so even longer than that. And he lost to Reyes, and I think that I would say 95% of MMA fans, if you watch the fight, it's the common consensus that Dominic Reyes won that fight. So Jones took all that time off. Whether Ngannou was ducking him or he was ducking Ngannou, who the fuck knows, to be honest. Only those two guys, or maybe Dana does. But by the way, he went in and beat Gane. And I don't even want to say at the time it was an amazing win over Gane, because still to this day, it's an amazing win over Gane. I know Gane has kind of been super inactive, especially as of the last couple years, but that doesn't take away from how good he is. He's one of the most agile, precise, crisp strikers, in the heavyweight division. And him, Aspinall, Almeida, they're kind of like that next wave, and they're really showing off athleticism that just the division, for the most part, really hasn't seen before, besides like rare cases, and usually those rare cases have been at the top. So, but yeah, Jones, his inactivity isn't going to help him either. I know he's, clearly younger than Stipe, but it's not by much. Jones himself is getting up there in age. What is he, like 36, 37, maybe 38? I mean, he's kind of on the tail end of his career as well. There's a reason that everybody's talking about this fight as a double retirement fight. You know what I mean? If Jones wins, I mean, I don't know. Maybe he could take him out by a sub. It's just that, like, Gane doesn't have great grappling, or really, I would even say good grappling. So it's like relatively. And Miocic has great takedown defense. Best in the world. No, but, he can clearly hold his own on the ground, and he tries to not get it there because, he is primarily a striker and a powerful one at that. And, like, I could just see him taking out Jones. I know it's hard to say with undefeated fighters, especially the one who most people think is the GOAT, because, he's never been finished, never been subbed, never, he's been taken to some fucking wars. But even those guys, they couldn't get him out of there, the close decisions with kind of the title fights towards the latter end of his career at light heavyweight, the fight against Gustafsson, the first one, I think that's kind of what made the Francis and Ngannou matchup so intriguing. But here we are with Stipe Miocic, and even at 42, 43 and being inactive, like, with these heavyweights, you never fucking know. And I know that's just like the basic thing to say with these heavyweights. I sound like Rogan. We're gonna start talking about the steel cups next and shit, bro, but it's just like, it's really true. Like, you really don't know. And the higher quality of fighters you get at heavyweight, the more you don't know, Miocic and Jones, they're just so inactive, and it just fucking throws a wrench in everything, not just for the division, but just like when you're talking about this fight. Like, I'm not excited for this fight, to be honest. It's hard to be, because, like, that if Jones wins, it's just going to be a double retirement. And if Stipe wins, that'd be fucking awesome and hilarious. And just, like, I'd be super happy for Stipe. He'd elevate himself even more on the GOAT list. And it would just be so funny to see Jones lose. It'd be so great. But he's going to have to go out there, and actions speak louder than words, and he's going to have to go and apply a heavy pace and pressure from the start. I mean, as Miocic, like I said, he's up there in age, man, so it's not like his cardio is better. It's not like his striking or grappling is, better than it's ever been. But hopefully, and it just might be good enough still to hang on there with Jones, who is at the very best. So Jones is going to, I feel like, try and get this fight to the ground, especially if Stipe starts piecing him up on the feet. And I really just think, even at like the older age, he needs to apply the pace and the pressure from the start, because if you get into that third, fourth round, especially like a guy like Jones, who has no problem kind of just like, especially if he knows he's winning, he has no problem keeping his distance, controlling the cage, and like not letting you win that fight. He's trying to get you, he's trying to point you up, win this fight by points. And he's trying to get up on the scorecards. And because Jones is not a big finisher, if he knows he's winning, he's not going to just pounce at the idea of the finish. Like, he kind of likes to coast. And Stipe, his cardio is not going to be great. It was good in his prime, don't get me wrong. Like, he had a lot of times he was able to go the 5 rounds at a consistent pace. And he ended up winning a lot of those fights, or pretty much all of them. So if Stipe is going to take him out, I'm feeling a Chandler first round KO and a Miocic second, maybe third round KO. So I don't know, but the rounds, fuck them regardless. I understand, guys, that the odds of one of these happening is extremely low. The odds of both of these happening, that's gotta be the most insane parlay ever. Fucking Miocic winning by finish and Chandler winning by finish. I mean, good God. But I can't see Chandler winning by submission, especially against like the greatest submission artist in mixed martial arts history, you could argue, or pretty much is. So, and Oliveira himself, like, if it goes to a decision, especially like, if it goes that second, like third, fourth, fifth round, like Oliveira's gonna piece him up or even just finish him and take him out of there. I can't see that fight going to decision. I don't think really most of us can. So, and then in the other one, like I could see Jones Miocic more likely to go to a decision, but even then, I don't know if it's likely because there is with the as good as Miocic is on the ground, like especially defensively, I just think that Jones is just. He's a big boy right now, right? He's a big guy. And I know that, Miocic, he's a big-ass heavyweight himself. Not the biggest, but when it comes to the grappling exchanges or really just his fights, he's fought with guys that are bigger than him and still prevailed. So I think the Stipe Jones fight, if it happened in 2020, I'd go with Stipe. By kind of any way he wanted. I just think Jones was on the decline, and even with Stipe, like right before the Ngannou rematch, or even 2021, even if this fight happened after the Ngannou rematch, I would still go with Miocic taking it. 2022 is where you get tricky because that's, Miocic is getting a bit older and Jones was kind of like more prepared for the heavyweight comeback. That's when you could really start talking. I think Jones, it can kind of be 50-50. And if it happened last year, I would have went with Jones. I know it was supposed to last year. I was more like excited for it last year. Not that it was like the most fucking exciting fight I was ever looking forward to. But this year, I'm just not super hyped up for it. Even the co-main, like Chandler versus Oliveira, you could argue it really doesn't make a lot of sense, especially rankings-wise or whatever the fuck. But I'm honestly happy for Chandler. He deserves a big fight. And it doesn't really get bigger than this besides McGregor or a fucking title shot. So it's just like, I'm happy that he at least got some, but I'm hoping they paid him pretty well for this one, especially after waiting out for as long as he fucking did. See you at the top. But yeah, man, or the bottom. It is what it is. We're going to see after UFC 309. So stylistically, I really do think it's possible for Miocic to win and for Chandler to win. Like, I'm really not just saying this to fuck with y'all. I'm going to be going with these two as my picks. I just want to preface too, I don't think that both of these are going to happen, okay? I probably should have said this sooner, but if one of these happens, I think it's going to be one. If it's both, then the MMA gods are fucked, and they're just fucking with us, and we're going to see where this takes us. That would make a really, really interesting, but bizarre 2025 for the heavyweight and the lightweight divisions, but I think one of them's going to happen. Probably more likely the Chandler one if I had to pick anybody. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do I sound fucking mental? I don't blame you at all. Let me know what you guys think. I'm obviously going to be making a full, main card prediction for UFC 309, but I want to touch on these fights first. We don't have the most exciting fight night this weekend. We got fucking... what is it, Proz versus Magny, and then we got like Garbrandt and Miles Johns as the co-main. So it's not the best fight night in the world, but wanted to talk about this. So let me know what you guys think. I appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. All the Smoke MMA, and I'll catch you guys next time.